Before we add any new class into your birthday book projects for further developments, I would like to show you how you can improve the layouts of your iPhone Studio just for easier navigation and developments. First of all, I would like to show you a very useful sequence of clicks that can reset your tool's layout. So sometimes you might find that the layout of your iPhone Studio simply is not ideal for you. Rather than wasting time tweaking it, why don't you just reset it and build from there? So the sequence is you can go for View, and then Tools Layout, and then Reset Tools Layout. That one will actually set everything back to default, and then we can go from there. There's only one minor change I would like to make it ideal, at least for myself. So you can see on the right hand side, we got groups, and also we got features over here, groups and features. Groups are analogous to the Project Explorer in the Eclipse for you to see the, for example, package structure in Java, and also cluster structure for iPhone, right? You can see what classes exist under each cluster. And also you got a library structure as well. And for the features, it's analogous to the outline view in Eclipse, which means by clicking a class, you can see what features are actually there. We'll see many examples like that later. Okay, so now you can either see groups or features, not both. But we would like to see them simultaneously. Let me show you how you can do it. My personal preference is to move the groups panel to the top. Okay, so now what I want you to do is left click on the groups and hold your click, and then drag it to the top. You can see there are actually two rectangles over here. Okay, hold it. Okay, go all the way up until you actually see there's only a single rectangle over there, and there's an up arrow, right? So now you can drop it. Okay, so now you actually got groups panel over here at the top. Also, you got features at the bottom, and also we got auto test. We don't really use it, so you can just close it. And also got favorites. You can also close it. So we keep it simple. We only got groups at the top and also features at the bottom. Okay, let me introduce a little bit more tabs to you, just so you can see it. Okay, and then we want to see over here. We have class and feature. That's something we'll look at a little bit later. But feature tab over here is actually very useful when you want to set a breakpoints for debugging purpose. We'll show you that in a later video. And then we got outputs. So this will be the compilation output over here. Also keep it there. Okay. And also we got errors. If you got any compilation error, you can always click on the error, and it will bring you back to the line where the error occurs. Okay, also we got auto test result, which we also don't need. You can close it if you like, but I'll leave it here for now. And then you will see around the button over here, there's something called diagram. It's automatically hidden, but if you move there, you can see it's, actually it will show up. We'll show you later how you can generate some sketchy architectural diagram based on the classes in your project. That's something we'll show you later, but just know that this exists a tab called diagram. We'll see how to do it a little bit later in the tutorial. Okay, and then I would like to show you how you can navigate for iPhone base library. Base library is like a Java API, basically, right? You got a library of classes which you can use whenever possible. How can you search for a particular class? So you can see over here, you got the text field over here, you got class, and also you got feature. You have to type a class before you can type a feature, basically. So now, what class? Let's say, of course, we already got root class in our system, but we want to search through the library. If you know the name precisely, you can type, for example, array. Type enter, and then now you're in the array class. And now you can see immediately, since now our current focus is in the array class, you can see under the features, it shows to you all the features over here, everything over here, right? And then I want you to look at one thing here. If you look under the features here, there's some useful information for you to look at. You can see under the inherits over here, it tells you what parent classes are there for the array class. And remember, I said before, a unique design feature for the iPhone language is it supports multiple inheritance, which means you can, so the array class, you can see from the program code, it inherits from resizable, indexable, and also toSpecial. So these are the three parent classes of the array. So they are also shown over here. So sometimes if you actually want to look up what the parent classes are for the current class, you can definitely look at either the program text or you can look at the features over here. Okay. And then you got different sections over here. Every section, for example, initialization corresponds to a feature section. That's something we will try when we start developing your birthday book classes. Okay, so you can see one section called initialization. one section called access, you can see every section, the name of the section depends on what comments you give to that particular feature section. It's actually very useful. And then let's pay a little bit more attention to the shape of the feature. You can see the green cross over here, for example, make empty. So that means it's a public feature, right? So in iPhone, we don't really call method. So that's something you want to get used to. I will clarify the terminology, not in the current video, but just a little bit later. But everything in iPhone is called feature. And under feature, we got more specialized name, which I will talk about a little bit later. But this feature here, make empty, is public, okay? How about this make here is gray out? If you click on that, the make over here is simply obsolete. Okay, so gray out is obsolete, so you shouldn't use it. Let's look at something that's also very interesting. For example, let's look at lower over here. You can see right along the green cross over there, there's an exclamation mark, the red one. Okay, if you look at that, the lower is simply just telling you that it's actually an attributes over here. Okay, so that's an attributes. It's a public attributes. It's telling you. Okay. Okay, let's go down a little bit more. Okay, again, that's basically about the features. Okay, that's something I would like to say. And one more thing. If you look at the parent classes over here, you can see resizable, indexable, and toSpecial. You can see for resizable, indexable, along the top left of the blue circle there, there's like a red dot over there, right? You can see it's actually the case for resizable and indexable, not for toSpecial. Why? It's a subtle, but I think it's important to pick up. First of all, let's look at toSpecial. toSpecial is a class. Let me first of all go to toSpecial. One way for you to go to the class is you can simply double click on the toSpecial, right click on that, and then you can see the blue circle there for you to drop. I can simply drop it to create a new tab. So that is toSpecial. You can see toSpecial is actually just a normal class. But what about the other two classes? Okay, let me go back. If I go to the array class over here, let's say I simply go to, let's say resizable, right? You can see again, it's a blue circle with some red dot on the top left over there. And then if I want to look at resizable, double click and then right click, you will see right click, you will see the blue. Okay, let me do it again. Let me go to resizable and then double click, right click, and then I can simply drop to the tab over here. Sometimes you might see the blue circle, sometimes you may not, but as long as you can drag and drop, that's okay. So now for resizable here, you can see it's called defer class. Think about defer in iPhone like abstract in Java. So whenever you declare a class as deferred, that means it's partially implemented. There's at least one feature or like one method in your class, resizable, that's not implemented, like abstract. Okay, we'll talk about defer class a little bit more later in the course. Okay, that's about how you can see many hints actually from the features panel over here. That's why it's actually quite handy. Okay, that's about the array. I want to show you some also very that's about how you can search class verbatim. Okay, what if I want to search, for example, I want to search all the classes that's related to a list. You can actually use regular expression like a wildcard. So for example, I can say I want to say anything. So start means any character, followed by list verbatim, followed by anything. If I simply type it there, if I hit enter, it shows me all the library classes where list appears somewhere in the middle, at the beginning or at the end, right? It's a very useful feature. And you can also try another one. I'll just give you another example. You can also explore yourself. Rather than containing list as a substring, what about containing sort? Okay, you can see all the classes that has to do with sorting. Okay, that's something you can explore. It's just actually for you to actually have a very quick search about a particular functionality you would like, and then maybe you're lucky you can just have a hit for the classes. Okay, so that's about the searching the class. And let me talk about the view over here. If you look at the view over here, you can see there are many icons over here. So the current one is called the basic text view. This is basically the additive view, which means from here, you can actually do some development. Of course, not the library classes. You cannot edit the library class. But for example, if I go to my root class over here, if I go to add, I must be in the basic text view in order to type something and edit. Okay, that one's straightforward. But let me go back to, so you can, let me navigate back to the array class. Okay, what I want to show you are two views that's very interesting. One is called the flat view. the flat view over here, you can think about like this, conceptually, okay? Remember we said before, the array actually got three different parent classes, right? Actually, I can tell you the situation might be a little bit more complicated. Let me just have some conceptual sketch for you. Let's say if I have an array over here, and then it has already 3 parent classes over here, and maybe those classes also have their parent class in, etc. It's like an ancestor tree. So now, what does really a flat view really mean? So if you go back to iPhone Studio over here, you can see this particular view I'm showing is called flat view. Flat view means, just conceptually, if I got feature F1, feature F2, feature F3, feature F4, and then I got F5 over here, right? So now in the flat view, it's actually going to accumulate all the features inherited from all the ancestor classes, which means the flat view for array is going to include F1, F2, F3, F4, and F5. Okay, that's a flat view. Basically like a flattened view of all the features accumulated along the ancestor tree of the inheritance hierarchy. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. That's about the flat view. And one of the purposes for flat view is also to set the breakpoint. So there are 2 ways for setting the breakpoints, which I will talk about precisely a little bit later. Okay, and then another one to see is called a contract view. That's the very important feature of the tool. That's why we said iPhone Studio is actually a design tool. So now we can show the contract view. So now here is called the contract view. You can think about the contract view. If I want to maximize the class, I can just double click on the tab. So now I see only the contract view. I can double click again. Now I'll come back. Okay, let's see the maximize. If I go to the contract view, basically what I would see is, for example, for this particular feature over here, I don't see any implementation anymore. I only see precondition and also the postcondition. Okay, we'll talk about exactly what precondition, postcondition, and class invariant, how we can define them. But as you also study through the lectures for the course, you will also understand conceptually what contracts, namely precondition, postcondition, class invariant really mean. So for every class, we say that for a class to have a proper interface, it must contain proper pre-post condition and class invariants. And so now this contract view is really showing all the contracts for a particular class. And speaking of contracts, I would like to go back to the flattened view, the flat view, just show you one more thing. Okay, I'm still in the array class over here. Let me just close the other one, okay, just to avoid confusion. So now I'm in the array class, and then let me go back to the flat view. Okay, so now if I go to the flat view over here, so let me go to a particular feature, let's say item. I want to see what's the item at a particular index, okay? And now I want you to pay attention to the precondition for the item. You can see every precondition should be specified under the required class. The precondition number 1, you can see says that it's from the table parent class, which means this particular precondition is accumulated from the table parents. And this particular precondition is accumulated from the readable indexable. And this particular one is accumulated from toSpecial. So contracts can also be inherited. That's something called subcontracting. So that's something we'll talk about in a lecture later in the course. But I just want to show you that for the flat view, you can definitely see exactly what contracts or what implementation has been accumulated from which ancestor. That's my point. Okay. So we have seen the contract view, we have seen the flat view, and also there's a basic text edit view. I want to show you one more, which is how can I figure out all the ancestors for my particular class. So you can definitely use some very useful tool for in iPhone Studio. So let me double click on the tab to actually see again the tools layout. So if I want to see the ancestor or descendants symmetrically for a particular class, okay, what you got to do is you can see the tab over here, click on the class over here. Okay, leave that there. You can see over here we got different icons over here, very useful. You can see the one that's chosen by default is called ancestor. As soon as we drag and drop some class into this empty region over here, it's going to show its ancestor. If you want to show its descendants, we click on that, and also call clients and also suppliers. So you would have learned about what clients mean and what also suppliers mean from week 1's lecture. But I will leave that maybe a little bit later towards the end of the tutorial to show you. Okay, but for now, just ancestor and descendants very quickly. If I want to see what the ancestors and descendants are for the array class, let me simply just go to the beginning of the class, okay? And then double click on that so it's highlighted, right click to drag to select it, right click. Okay, be careful. Right click and then right click again to drop it. So whenever I say drag and drop, you gotta right click to drag and also right click to drop. Okay. So now you can see because currently the ancestor button has been clicked, so that means these are all the ancestor classes. So now I will help you read it a little bit. Okay, but it's going to be applicable for all the other cases. So now if you compress the list, okay, so that shows you array has indexable, resizable, and toSpecial, these three parent classes. But what about indexable itself? Indexable itself also has readable, indexable, and also table. So now it will be very beneficial to see how we can visualize this. So why don't we try this particular example very quickly, okay? Start from the parents of array class, okay? The immediate parents of array. So now you can see it's going to be indexable, resizable, and also toSpecial, right? Indexable, resizable, and toSpecial over here. So these are the three parent classes of array. And what about indexable over here? For indexable, that one has also two parents, which is readable, indexable, and also table. So that means for indexable, it's going to be readable, indexable, and also table, right? Over here. So these are the two. And what about resizable? It's going to be just bounded. But hopefully you can see the idea what I'm trying to do now. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out the tree based on the hierarchy. So if you let's say this, if you don't have such tool, right? What you will have to do is you may actually have to follow through the programming text from array and then try to see, oh, it actually inherits from resizable, indexable, and also toSpecial. So you're gonna go to that each of the classes and go to see what their parents are. But now if you actually got this particular tree basically already here for you, it'll be much easier for you to figure out the relationship for the inheritance hierarchy. Okay, so now this will be just a very nice tool later on if you actually want to figure out either the relationship for the IFO-based library you are interested in using, or maybe figure out the relationship between classes in your own big projects. Okay, so that's about the ancestor, and also similarly, you can also click on descendants over here. So these are, well, actually you only got one descendant class, like a subclass of array, which is array2. By the way, array2 stands for two-dimensional array. So later on, if you want to implement matrix, for example, you can also use array2, right? Or you can also use array of linked list, etc. Okay. So now I have one exercise for you to actually figure out. I'll write it down for you over here. So this is the exercise. Okay. By the way, this is the flat view, right? Let's not forget. So just don't forget the conceptual idea about what a flat view is. So this is an exercise I want to give to you before I end the video. So the exercise goes like this. I want you to figure out the ancestor and also parents for this particular class. The ancestor and also descendants of the list class. Over here, you don't need to give me the exhaustive list, but I want you to practice using the tool to figure out what should be the parents and descendants of list. Okay, that's question number one. Question number one. And question number two, let's say this. Let me just write in Java syntax just for now, okay? So let's say if I have, let's say list, some variable v, right? Of course, you may have semicolon in Java, right? So now, the question is, when I say v is assigned to new over here, and then I need to pass some type over here, right? This is so-called a dynamic type of v at the runtime. So now the question is, based on your answer to the ancestor and also descendants of the list, what should be the possible dynamic type, or what could be the possible binding at the runtime for v over here? So that is my question to you, and you should treat it as a serious exercise, because later on in the video we're going to talk about a design principle called program from the interface but but not from the implementation. So it's a design principle which we'll talk about, but this will be a very good warm-up exercise or preparation exercise for that. Okay.